Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. Great to have you along. It is Tuesday, August the 19th, 4:56 a.m. with the big blue mug of coffee. I hope you're having a great day today. And today, I'm going to tell you a quick personal story, and I hope you'll stick with me through this because it's very pertinent to the greatness of Canadian politicians. I'm going to talk a little bit about Pierre Poilievre and his speech last night after winning in Battle River Crowfoot. The latest numbers in the election, 80%, so it was a wipeout. The left's Bonnie Critchley went down in flames. But I'm going to talk about the greatness in politics because what Pierre Poilievre did last night was outstanding, but in a different way than you might be getting from the rest of the media. And then I'm going to talk about the worst in Canadian politics and politicians. I'm going to get to Doug Ford shortly at the end of this as well. But I want to tell you a personal story. As you can see, I have got a gash in my nose this morning, and this ties in with Poilievre. Please stick with me. Yesterday, for those that don't know, I had a bike crash 2 Saturdays ago. I broke my pelvis in two places, and I broke my collarbone, this one here. And it's pretty tough getting around when you've got a broken pelvis. Yesterday, 10 o'clock in the morning, I went to get up out of bed. I twisted my pelvis the wrong way yesterday, and I don't know whether you have ever had so much pain that you blacked out, but it happened to me yesterday, and it's happened to me twice since I've broken my pelvis, and you don't want to go through it. I went to get up, and I was screaming, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God," and my wife, God love her, came down, and I'm holding on to her, and I was in another world at that point. And I said to her, "Can you get a bowl because I think I'm going to vomit?" And as she got into the kitchen here, that was the moment that I completely blacked out and I went face first into the floor with a broken pelvis and a broken collarbone, and we had to call the ambulance. I spent all day in the hospital wondering if I'd done more damage to myself. It's what we were worried about, and I haven't, thank God. But I'm standing at the door with the person from the hospital, and they looked at me and said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I'm scared. I don't want to have to deal with that again. It hurts so bad." And he said, "John, it's not the times you fall in life, but it's the times you get back up." And that's true, you know. I mean, I watched Pierre Poilievre last night, and I'm tying this in with him because I love the word serendipity. I really do. Serendipity is a lucky happenstance. Now, I don't know how lucky I was to fall yesterday, but I was lucky to learn that lesson last night. It's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get back up. And I think I knew that all along, but I needed that reinforced. And that's what Pierre Poilievre did last night. He did a speech that was masterful. Now, I'll put a link in the description. This guy is the real deal. I admire him. I do. I admire him. But he's the real deal. Of course, he came out after winning last night, and he did the regular stuff. He thanked everyone, said it was a wonderful opportunity to meet the people at Battle River Crowfoot. He talked about the problems in the country. You know the list, caused by the Liberals. Not going to get into it. Talked about how the Conservatives will get to work, and that he would work with any party, which I don't think is going to happen. I'll get to Doug Ford on that in just a moment. He talked about how things are worse now that Carney has been the prime minister, how tariffs are worse since Carney has been the prime minister. He talked about his Sovereignty Act, how he talked about building things. And because he's in Alberta, he talked about building pipelines. But it was the best part of everything he said last night. Starts at about 13 minutes in. I'm going to play a short clip for you here, not the whole thing. You can watch the whole thing. I think you need to watch it. The best part of his speech last night was when he got into talking about getting back up after you're down. I said yesterday in my video, I think Pierre Poilievre might have been a little bit humiliated by losing in the election back on April the 28th. But last night, Pierre Poilievre, it was a masterclass on talking about humility.
I really love the people of Battle River Crowfoot. They're the kind of what you see is what you get. Give you the shirt off their back. Tell it like it is. Common sense people. They reinforce. I love you too. Thank you very much. I love you. And they reinforced a lot of lessons that all of us in politics have to learn and relearn again. Humility and hard work, loyalty and love. You see, the people in these communities, they fight their own battles, but they're always ready to stop and help a neighbor or a friend. They know how to stretch a dollar, and most of all, they know, in the words of the great Paul Harvey, how to bail together a family with the soft, strong bonds of sharing. They reminded me of all of these things, and they also reminded me that the road to success is never a straight line. And most of all, you should never give up in hard times. That whenever hardship strikes, you need to stand up and keep on going. And if you care about something, you don't give up on it when things get difficult or you suffer a setback. These stories that were on the faces of the people I met, the woman suffering from cancer who had just overcome days of radiation treatment, who showed up at my town hall in Stettler to tell me to keep going. I say to her, you don't give up, so I don't give up.
It was a truly wonderful speech. He talked about the woman with cancer as an example, but he gives a number of examples. He gets to the point where if you watch his wife, Anna, standing behind him, she starts crying and she's wiping tears from her eyes. The man has learned something from losing in the election on April the 28th. He knows what humility is. And he's to be admired for what he said last night. It was a really wonderful speech. So again, watch the whole thing. A link in the description. And then we move on to Doug Ford. And why am I lumping Doug Ford in here? Because you go from a person who has the strength of his convictions, who's trying to solve problems, to Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, who calls himself a conservative. And he's asked yesterday about advice for Pierre Poilievre, and he gives it. He talks about Team Canada. And Doug Ford doesn't realize that Team Canada is dead. If he wants Team Canada to be alive, he needs to be talking to the people who are getting in the way of making Canada a great country. And that would be people like David Eby, Wab Kinew, the Premier of Nova Scotia, the Premier of Quebec. All those people are standing in the way of prosperity in this country. It's been talked about here before. What he needs to do is not give advice to Pierre Poilievre, who has got solutions to the problems. He needs to turn around and start talking to his good buddy, Mark Carney. He needs to turn around to Mark Carney and say, you got to start working with people like Pierre Poilievre and start listening to Danielle Smith and start listening to Scott Moe, who have the solutions to the problems in this country and will guarantee the prosperity of Canada. But Mark Carney isn't listening. This is what idiot Doug Ford had to say yesterday.
Premier, today is Pierre Poilievre's by-election. If he gets elected, I'm wondering, what's your advice to him going into the fall sitting of the Parliament?
Work with the Prime Minister.
How's so?
Let's Team Canada. Let's put our political stripes aside and start working together collectively on large infrastructure projects, on other areas that he can cooperate with the government.
I don't think anybody should be listening to Doug Ford for advice when it comes to solving problems in this country. Doug Ford is not about solving problems. He's about advancing his career when it comes to politics, and he's going to go right through Mark Carney to get it done because he's constantly complimenting Mark Carney and the Liberal Party that's been in power for 10 years that's got us into this mess. And I don't have to give Pierre Poilievre and his campaign team advice, but I'm going to watch your back. Because these two guys are snakes and they're going to try to do you in when it comes to your leadership campaign in January. I don't know how that's going to manifest itself, but that's what's going on here. I did a video back in January 21st. I watched it this morning. I was wearing my Wexit hat. The video was called Get Off Team Canada, Get on Team Danielle Smith. Because Danielle Smith is the only person that has accomplished anything in this country when it comes to Donald Trump and tariffs. And she was called a traitor for it. That's how these people roll, folks. Now, where does this leave Canada? Pierre Poilievre won last night. He'll be back in the House of Commons. He'll be in question period. He's going to slay Mark Carney. He's just going to destroy him. Where does this leave the country? The country is doomed, folks. As much as I like Pierre Poilievre, and I think he'd be a good prime minister, I still believe that Alberta is better off as an independent country because Pierre Poilievre will get nothing done. Carney is running the country right now like he's got a majority because nobody will vote with the Conservatives on anything. So we're stuck with this. We're stuck with the suck for God knows how long. And that's the truth of the matter. But Poilievre was wonderful last night. I think he was great. Tell me what you think in the comments. Love to hear them. I didn't have much time for comments yesterday because of what happened. I hope you don't mind my personal story, but tell me what you think in the comments. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. I raise my big blue mug of coffee to you. I'll see you in the next one.